All right, welcome everyone. This is our part three of the Reframe webinar series, Pricing with Confidence, that leads to our in-person event in November this year. So we're excited. I'm Carlos Garcia, and joining me is Hector Garcia. The conversation today is going to be the price of trust. As you know, everything that we want to talk about in this webinar series is going to lead up to the big event in November, and we want to specifically deep dive a little bit around more of the science behind and the psychology behind what is the price or what is the cost of building trust. And we're going to dive right in there. And if you're joining for the first time, this is a 10 session webinar series. As mentioned before, there you will get CPE credit for attending the entire session. In order for you to claim your CPE credit, Hector will actually launch a series of polling questions so that you can qualify to get your CPE credit. So you do have to make sure you stay throughout the entire session so that you can get your CPE credit and more information around how you will be able to receive that CPE credit. This session happens every fourth Friday of the month, leading up to October 24th, and then our Reframe event being on November 2nd through 5th. So, as mentioned before, you will be getting an email copy of the slides via chat, as Hector is probably pasting it right now. I see it. And then the playback will be on Hector's channel as well, probably the same day or the day after. Depends on, how much editing needs to happen throughout. The process will be given live to if you attend 50 minutes or more in attendance and answer the polling questions. And you will be emailed within 10 business days. If you don't get it by then, you can go ahead and email Hector at qbkaccounting.com so you can achieve that. Now, what we're going to talk about today is, we talked about the webinar series. We have some other events that we'll talk about that are happening after tax season. So in April, we have two main events happening that are virtual, but the big one is going to be the reintroduction of 2024's theme, which is influential conversations for accountants, and we're doing a virtual edition of that. For those of you who came in 2024, we're going to have a special offer for you to come back and get that refresher. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to come in 2024, you'll have an opportunity to get a little bit more of a condensed version, but we're basically getting the greatest hits from the 2024 event, and we'll talk more about that. Of course, we'll also let you know about how you can be part of Reframe 2025 in Miami. We do have some limited tickets for that, but let's dive into today's conversation, which is about the price of trust. A couple of things for you to think of that we're going to share with you is what's the simple formula for pricing with confidence? Why do accounting professionals often struggle with pricing? And we're going to walk through that first before we go into sharing the formula. We're going to talk about the difference between how to calculate using kind of cost margin approach, which is a lot what the accounting trade is trained to know about how to understand profitability versus pricing with an ROI mindset, and how to kind of price beyond the margin, price beyond the cost, and even price with more of an ROI mindset. And then Hector will break down what are some of the things that measures trust. And it's a new concept. These are the three C's that will measure the concept of trust. So, Hector, I'll turn it over to you if you want to kind of pre-frame or, contextualize a little bit about what we're going to talk about in the next slide.
You can do the next three slides and then I'll take over after.
All right. So as I'll set it up. So essentially, why do accounting professionals struggle with pricing? The first thing is essentially when we're learning about accounting, we tend to understand debits and credits. We learn about cost accounting, and the business sense of understanding as a business owner, even of how to understand profitability or even pricing is we first start with cost, right? What does it cost me? Then everything else beyond that is the margin. So we're always thinking about margins and like what is a good percentage of profitability? There are baselines, there are known facts where, this is a good sense of profitability for this industry. And so we use some of these pre-built, knowledge models to help us understand what is our current reality of what pricing looks like, what is considered fair or unfair. But the reality is when you are pricing knowledge or expertise, right? Intangible services, sometimes those rules don't apply when it comes to expertise. I think, we talked about the over reliance on cost and margin models. That doesn't apply. And then the third aspect is the struggle with pricing is the emotional journey that we have to go through, right? Which is the money conversation. We've all been raised to talk about money differently. Our customers have, we have, based on how we observed our parents or people of authority talk about money and how to manage money and how to have a money conversation. Some of you may have been raised to not talk about money. Some of you may have been, our preconceived notions around, if I charge too much, I'm going to seem greedy. Some could have potentially limited belief systems that may think I'm not worthy enough to charge as much as some of my peers, or it could be intimidating. Or others may be in a space where you want to be kind of that people pleaser, and you're here to show more nobility and be of service to the client. Maybe you see that the client struggles financially, and out of the kindness of your heart, it's difficult to separate one thing from the other. And so these are some elements that are true that exist, and we want to share with you ideas around how to overcome some of these challenges. What gets in the way of effective pricing? Most of the times we found it to be that a lot of our thinking versus the external value we create tends to be one of the biggest obstacles. Having a lack of clarity of understanding what is ROI, not just from a functional standpoint, but we want to talk about beyond functionality. What is ROI? And then, of course, we talk about the emotional journey, which is the fear of rejection or being too expensive. Today, we won't talk as much around how to overcome some of the mindset per se around how to manage the emotions, how to establish emotional discipline, how to build towards confidence. But some of the ideas and concepts we will give you that are frameworks and structures and models that you can think of are helpful evidence to scaffold towards some thinking belief systems that you can reshape or perceptions that you can challenge so that you can have a better journey towards getting to a place where you can price more effectively. And so the key elements are to think about is positioning more for ROI, not about inputs or tasks or the actual labor or the work, which we know that that's more of the hourly billing model, right? Where we're measuring time. In this case, we're actually measuring outcome. And then designing products and offers using the right language that have outcome driven specific narratives or stories to tell so that our customers are understanding what that future desired state is and how your products and your offers are in alignment with those future desire states. And then having better conversations. Those are the key elements. But we're going to talk about some internal factors. Hector's going to walk you through around helping you bring more of these ideas to life.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to switch over to my screen. While I'm doing the switch, I just have the first polling question. Once again, there's no right or wrong answer. The polling question is for the purposes of issuing the CPE at the end of the session. So just answered your question. The question is, are you coming to Reframe 2025 in Miami, pricing with confidence in November? So yes, you got your ticket. No, you haven't decided yet. No, but you're considering our virtual event that we have in April, which we'll talk more in detail when we finished. Or no, the topic of pricing with confidence doesn't interest you, which is interesting because you're in these webinars. but yeah, it's kind of a big investment to leave for a week and go to a physical event, and sometimes topics could be interesting, if they don't require such a big investment. So I would understand. I was kind of joking around that. Okay, so we got the polling question up. It's been about a minute. Again, if you want your CPE certificate, make sure that you answer the question. There's no right or wrong answer. I'll close the polling in 3, 2, 1. End the poll. Perfect. All right. So to summarize what Carlos said earlier, I think there's just a very simple formula for pricing with confidence. And if I could if I can simplify it into 2 words, it would be trust and value. And just a quick background, about 10 years ago, I went to QuickBooks Connect, and there was a person on the main stage talking about figuring out like your purpose in 1 word. And it's a pretty deep exercise that you do, and you narrow it down and you figure out which 1 word states your purpose. And I decided to kind of do a combination of this and get my firm together, get all the team members in the firm, and I asked them to do the exercise in group. Now, this is complicated because people have different internal sort of motivations, but I figured, what if I take my team, which people that I love and trust in my firm, and use the brain trust of all of us together to come up with the word of purpose for our firm. So we laid out a bunch of words in Post-it notes, in tables on the wall, and about what your purpose is as a professional, as an accountant, as a parent, as a son, as a daughter, as a brother, as a sister. And people put up all these words. They put words like faith and trust and building and value and confidence and love and support. They put all words. I mean, we had like 100 words, and then we grouped them into categories, and then we kind of like round robin. We went out there and just removed words from the wall, and the idea was to remove enough words so we end up with 1 word. And we went through the exercise, and we were in our last 4 or 5 words, and they're all big important words. There was like trust and confidence and obviously value and building and future. There was like words that are very strongly contained. And it got to the point where there was 2 words left, literally 2 words left. And it was also my turn. Like we were round robin. It was 8 of us. It was my turn. And I had to literally pick between the last 2 words that were left, which were trust and value. And I literally couldn't, even though I literally broke the exercise and said, you know what? We're not going to pick 1 word. We're going to pick these 2 words in combination as the definition of our purpose as a firm. So we essentially said, well, we are as a firm, like our job is to build trust and create value. And in the short term, we try to build that into our lexicon. So anytime that we're doing something and we're not 100% sure if what we're doing is worth doing or is going in the right direction, the idea is that we ask ourselves, is what I'm doing right now, the task that I'm doing right now, is it on purpose? So the task, we could be like sort of off task, or we feel that we're not doing what we're supposed to based on our checklist. But is what we're doing still on purpose? And for us to know, is it still on purpose? Are we building trust, or are we creating value? And that exercise sent me in the rabbit hole of learning about trust and learning about value creation. And that has been my journey for the last 10 years. And at the core of this whole thing is, well, I want to continue to build trust with my team, and I want to create value for my team. But in order to do that, I have to make enough money from my customers to be able to invest back in my team. And my team wants to build trust in the community, wants to create value to the community. But in order to do that, they have to make enough money and have decent work hours so they can give back or invest back in their community or their families. So it all flows through, right? So we build trust and create value for our customers. They pay us more, we price higher. We can pay our employees more, give them more time. They can manifest those earnings back in their communities, and the impact of your firm is much deeper and wider, which is why I think the formula for really anything, achieving anything, is building trust and creating value. So we're simplifying that. In order to price with confidence, all you had to do is build trust and create value. So here's the more scientific answer, which is, when we think of what we charge our customers, right? Whenever we think of a transaction, what we charge our customers has 2 components. Has the internal cost of what it costs our firm to perform the work, So this could be the cost of your employees. This could be the the cost of software that you invest, right? You pay for QuickBooks or tax software or whatever. This could be the infrastructure that you create, your IT systems, your security systems. All these things are in the internal cost. And then the difference between what we pay ourselves as the owners or whatever, and what we charge our client is the margin. And that's how we're taught. That's how business is taught. That's how accounting is taught, right? There's a cost, there's a profit, and the difference between the cost and the sales price is the margin. So we think of what we do almost always as a percentage of the price. The margin is a percentage of the price. However, what I think we do for our customers is give them return on investment, which should be measured as multiples from price. So it's a huge paradigm shift from thinking beyond how we're trained to look at business. We train to look at business almost always from the perspective of margin. The P&L is built this way. So it's revenue on top, expenses in the bottom, and there's a percentage that tells you expenses as a percentage of revenue. But if we were taught different, if we had expenses on top, right, and then revenue as multiple of the expenses investment, our mindset would change completely. So this is why I think that we just need to have a paradigm shift to think of it differently. The value that the customer creates to us, so our customers help us create value for us, is represented in margin. But the value that our firm creates for a customer is represented in multiples as return investment back to the customer. So in many mindsets of a lot of professionals, where they think the customer has all the power because they're the ones that have the money, because they're the ones that pay us, I'm proposing to look at it this way. Your customer creates a fraction of the value of what you create for them. As firm owners, as accounting professionals, we are in the business of creating more value for customers that they create for us. And this formula and this graphic explains it clearly, right? Our customers create a fraction of the value that we create. Therefore, it would be unfair to you to price low. You will be helping your clients commit fraud, so to speak, by not charging closer to the value that you create, because your customers are getting a steal by only paying you in margin where you pay them in multiples of the price that they pay. So value is measured in multiples of value. So it's just a simple trick to think of what you do as multiples from price, not on percentage from price, right? So it's should be very, very clear that you as a firm, you as an accounting professional, create a lot more value than your customers do. And these are the principles of supply side economics, which is kind of a very counterintuitive way of thinking of economic thinking. Most schools teach demand side economics, which means because the customers demand the service, therefore an accountant exists to fulfill that service. I'm proposing the opposite. I'm proposing that because you exist, proposing a service that the customer didn't even know they needed because of the way you communicate it and the way you create value and build trust around it, then a customer exists because of you. But in order to do that, you have to have tons of credibility in the marketplace. You have to have tons of trust in the marketplace, which is why we're going to kind of flow through the next concept, which is we're going to go a little bit deep on building trust. Now, we're going to go deeper on creating value on a different session. We just don't have enough time. We're going to be focusing most of it in building trust. I'm also going to be monitoring the chat and the questions. So if you have any questions or anything on this, we'll be able to do that. So let's start with how customers measure trust in knowledge work. And I think it boils down to, we call it the 3 C's: the credentials, the credentials, the credibility, and credit worthiness. So just simplifying the concept, right? So you want to build trust, you have to build or work on these three areas: credentials, credibility, and creditworthiness. And to simplify, to just go to oversimplify these things in a more in sort of a simpler approach, right? Because there was a lot of stuff on the slides. Just think of credentials as what institutions say about your knowledge. Think of credibility about what you claim or what you say you know, right? So what you claim to have in terms of knowledge. And creditworthiness about how your past actions or what your past actions say about your knowledge. And I keep saying about your knowledge, but this could also work in terms of capabilities. So your credentials are what institutions say your capabilities are. Your credibility is what you claim to be your capabilities, and creditworthiness is what your past actions say about your capabilities. But because what we're doing mostly is knowledge work, I'm just thinking of within the context of knowledge. Now, if we blow these up again, back into the longer slide, if we blow them up, credentials are your degrees, your certifications and licenses, your associations and memberships. Your credibility is specializing in one target customer and saying no to non-target customers. The more you say no to the customers that are not in your specialty, the more credibility you build, because the ultimate confidence booster is saying no and other people watching you, seeing you say no. So when you specialize, saying no becomes a lot more common, and which is fine. It's great. Also, we've said this a million times, but we will never stop saying it, is if you post videos showcasing what you know, podcasts talking about what you know, articles giving away what you know, books, ebooks. So it doesn't have to be physical published books. It could be ebooks, it could be pamphlets, and group expert contributions. They're kind of a big one. I think a lot of folks don't realize how important it is when you are in a Facebook group or in a WhatsApp group or in any sort of social media group, or maybe in a private membership group, and you're answering a lot of questions about manufacturing or a lot about nonprofit. You become a subject matter expert in that group, and then your peers tend to refer you work. I am almost certain that if any of you that are here tend to answer a lot of specific questions about a specific topic, you have gotten referrals for work. So that's a huge credibility builder. And of course, awards, top 100, whatever, right? Like top 20 under 20, top 40 under 40, all those things help, right? Build your credibility. And the most important thing is giving away your knowledge with confidence. When you're not afraid to give your knowledge because you're confident that you're so good that when you get hired, your value is so much beyond your knowledge. It's not just the book knowledge, but it's the applicable knowledge. That is a huge credibility booster. So the more you give away your knowledge with confidence, the more you project that getting hired to apply that knowledge for their particular situation will be really, really high value. And creditworthiness, again, what your past actions say about your knowledge, this could be years of experience, okay? Or this could also be years in business. So like there's many people that have 20 years of experience, but they just started the business last year. Customers look at that, like how long you've been in business for, how much experience you have. Both of those things could play into it. Client testimonials, or people that you don't work with in the past, testimonials, and being financially and ethically sound. Like an accountant with bad credit, an accountant that doesn't pay their taxes, those things don't really say a lot about you. So it's basically leading, basically leading by example, right? So being ethical, if you want your clients to be ethical, you got to be ethical too. So think about these three things: credentials, credibility, and creditworthiness, as something that you systematically always grow from when you're 20 years old to when you're 80 years old. You're almost always creating a system in place to build up these three things. And the way I think of it is, I think that these three things essentially allow you to gain pricing power. I think your pricing power is a function of the balance of these things. So think of an equilateral triangle that where every side represents one of these things: credentials, credibility, and creditworthiness. And at any point in time that you have one that's bigger than the other, the triangle itself would essentially lose shape, right? And when it loses shape, that circle, this is just this is basic geometry, and I apologize for sneaking in a geometry class in here. But at any point in time that you go really hard on one and not hard on the other ones, your triangle it decreases in size, or at least the area of the triangle decreases in size where the circle is, and then your pricing power goes down. So for example, let's think of someone that decided to go all in on credit worthiness and spend no time, no real investment on doing the other two, and think what would happen if something like that were to happen. So I'll just kind of redo the triangle here. So what happens is your circle gets smaller, right? So again, to maximize the area of your pricing power, you want to have a balance between these three. So this is the big one that that a lot of accountants focus on. So I'm going to do a little bit of deeper dive just on credentials, and I'm going to offer you an alternative to rethinking credentials. Carlos, any questions or comments that we can start going through before we go into that? And then what I'll do is I'll also perfect time to open it to do a second polling question. Okay, so
Yeah. While you're doing that, Hector, not sure if it's relevant, but looking at the Q&A, does anything with pricing have an impact on pricing of money, on money? Is there an element of pricing of money that affects the element of deciding when to price, how to price? If I'm guessing this talks about monetary policy, but this is a little bit more advanced economics, but does this have a relevance to that?
Okay, so can you rephrase the question?
To what extent does pricing dilemma impact the pricing of money in banking and financial services industry?
Yeah, I think the question is a little bit off topic, but I'll give you an answer in terms of time value of money. So a lot of us that have studied finance, we think of time value of money, where the money today is not the same thing as the money tomorrow. So $100 today are not worth the same as $100 tomorrow, or $100 in 10 years or 20 years, because there's inflation, there's interest rate, and all that stuff. So when you think of return on investment, you have to kind of consider the fact that that the $100 you spend today, for example, let's say I'll spend $100. Let's say I spend $1,000 today to get my books right. If I spend nothing and wait 3 years, where I not only have to pay 2, 3, 4 times that, because I have to clean up and go backwards and pay penalties, but the cost of money is much higher. So the services are going to be much higher. So you could always sell, to kind of answer that question from a financial term, you could always sell on the value of investing today in order not to pay more for the future. So so that's kind of, Carlos, maybe that's kind of the answer to the question. It was kind of a tough economic financial question, but I didn't want to go too much off topic. Anyway, the second polling question is up, and we're going to close this second polling question. Make sure you answer if you want your CP certificate. The question is, how do you feel about selling your services? And I will share this one, but this one's interesting, generally really interesting to show, which is how you feel about selling your services. And 64% of you love doing the work, hate the selling portion. 10% of you actually love the sales process and less excited about doing the work. Of course, you're accountants. You should be excited about the work and not the sales process. And 26% of you kind of love both. So we're really focusing more on the 64% of you that love doing the work and hate doing the selling portion, because this is kind of like this is sort of the main topic here, which is increasing trust and creating value. So it makes it easier for you to sell your work. Carlos, I saw there's a couple of comments or questions let's go through those.
I mean, I think Deb had a good question saying, what is the value we create? And can we be specific? I'll give you an example. So I think I know some of the slides could give a little preview. And Deb,
We
you're part of our Reframe Society, so we're gonna go deeper into it next month. But
yeah. So we're actually going to do a whole session on value creation here in the on the monthly podcast, which is going to be the second piece of this. We're going to be focusing just on creating trust and credentials for today, but just stay tuned next month, and we're going to go deeper on value creation. There's actually a whole system and formula around that, which is actually pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about credentials really quick. And the purpose of this is most people here know, but I might talk about some credentials that you've never heard of, so it'd be kind of interesting. So we have the CPA, probably the highest, most reputable credential in the industry. There are sub-certifications. There's CITP, which actually I'm one of them, which is for IT, so CPAs that focus on IT. There's CFF, which are CPAs that focus on forensics. There's PFS, which are CPAs that focus on personal financial planning. And then there's the ABV, which are CPAs that focus on business evaluation. Then there's the CGMA, which is offered by the AICPA, and it's an alternative to the CPA because these are for folks that want to be recognized to be really good accountants, but don't necessarily need to go into audit or tax representation. So the AICPA has been developing and building this CGMA, which is called, I think, Chartered Global Management Accountant, which for people that do bookkeeping work and monthly accounting and advisory are best fit to have. So a lot of folks focus too much on the CPA. CPA, of course, has a great credibility, but I think the CGMA is something worth considering. There are CGMAs. That come from CPAs, and there's also CGMAs that are just CGMAs. There's also for tax people. I mean, there's enrolled agent. There's also deep specialists that do like single things. Like there's a CMA called the Certified Management Accountant. There's a CFE, which is called, I believe, Certified Forensic Expert or something like that. There's the CIA, which is the Certified Internal Auditor, and the CFP, which is Certified Financial Planning. Those are also very credible, and those are not as arduous and challenging to get as the CPA. There's also the Certified Bookkeeper by the AIPB, and there's all sorts of variations on Certified Bookkeeper. The thing is that there's no regulatory body that certifies bookkeeping, and also no one company has done a really good job or organization at creating a single credible certified bookkeeping certification, although the AI, thank you, Penny, CFE is Certified Fraud Examiner, so not expert examiner. So certified bookkeeper, there's all sorts of variations and difference. I know that the AIPB has a trademark on certified bookkeeper. So if you use certified bookkeeper and you're not a certified bookkeeper by the AIPB, you can get a cease and desist letter. There's also, of course, having an accounting degree, and in some cases an MBA. There's also membership associations. Like you could be a member of the AICPA without being a CPA. I was a member for about 6 years before I became a CPA. I went to the meetings and I networked with other CPAs there. It's actually a really, really good way of networking with other CPAs. There's also the state CPA societies. Again, most of them have memberships for people that are students or they're in the industry, but they're not exactly CPAs. There's the AIPB, which I mentioned. There's DBA, which I think is called Digital Bookkeeping Associate or something like that. There's the NATP and the NSTP, which are for tax people. There's an organization called Bookkeeping Buds by our friend Cindy Schrader, which seems to be growing every year, and they're really awesome people that kind of focus a lot on helping each other and doing incredible bookkeeping work. There's the Woodard organization, and then there's stuff like the Reframe. It's so self-serving to put it on the slide, I know, but stuff like the Reframe Society, which gives you credibility. There are conferences like Building the Gap. I don't know if they got any sort of Bridging the Gap. I don't know if they have any sort of certifications or memberships, but any membership where you are with other people that are boosting you up is always going to be net positive. And there's also software expertise, right? Like being a QuickBooks Pro advisor, or being a Microsoft certified expert, or being a certified Right Tool Pro, which is actually not a thing. And that actually, it's a good segue to the next thing, which is all certifications are not a thing until someone makes it a thing, with the exception of like a state license. right? A state license is a different thing. So like a CPA is a state license. IRS, I mean, the enrolled agent is an IRS-driven license. Everything else was nothing until somebody decided to make it something. Okay, like for example, I own a software company called RightTool. There's no such thing as a certified RightTool Pro yet. The only thing I need to do is create it. All I have to do is create the website, create the thing, trademark it, which is what I'm gonna talk about really quick, which is a couple of years ago, I had an accounting firm, a bookkeeping firm. They were doing some consulting work with me, and I was going through this concept of, hey, what kind of credentials do you guys have? They were struggling to get new clients, or really they were struggling to raise their prices. They were getting a lot of bottom feeder type clients. And then I asked them what credentials they have, and it turned out that these guys were fabulous. They did incredible work, 20 years of experience. They knew QuickBooks up and down. They could produce financial statements, bookkeeping like no other, but no one had a certification or a credential. And I went back to them and I said, why not? And they told me, we just don't have time. We're just so busy. We're heads down. We don't have time. We're too old, or whatever the excuse was. And we're going back and forth. And I said, why don't you just build your own credential? Like literally, like it occurred to me on the spot. Why don't you build your own credential? And they were like, you can do that? I'm like, anybody could do something before it exists. All you have to do is create it, trademark it, and document it. So I went down the rabbit hole and I kind of like helped that person build the concept. And here's a framework. The first thing you got to do is you kind of pick a unique trademarkable name. Okay, like Shannon here in the chat saying she trademarked payroll restoration specialist. Beautiful. Like that's exactly it. No one else in the world can be a payroll restoration specialist. And when Shannon goes out and offers her payroll fixing or payroll repair or payroll cleanup service, people can say, well, but so-and-so down the street said they'll do my payroll for half the price. And then all Shannon has to do is ask, are they payroll restoration certified? And they go, oh, I don't know what that is. He goes, well, let me show you what the payroll restoration certification means. And you go through and you explain it. You create your own certification. You create your own standard. So the framework is you pick a unique trademarkable name. The second one is you create levels of certification and mastery. Like it shouldn't be not certified and certified. I like having level 1, level 2, level 3. That actually, it shows that people build up to it. It's not something just gets overnight. You have to create an experience or time standard. So it takes a year to get the first level certification, 2 years to get level 2, 3 years to get level 3, something like that. 4, you actually create an exam to demonstrate mastery. And the last thing is to give it the most amount of credibility is you offer the certification to the public with a price. So it's not just your firm that can get certified on this. Anyone that goes through the process could get certified on this, which actually gives it outside your firm marketable credibility. So I'm going to go deep into one of these. There's actually a whole like 2 or 3 hour class that I could teach on your own certification design, but I'm going to go deep into one of these concepts, like the trademarkable name. So a couple of the ideas that I've had around this that you could use is, one, you can grab your firm name, add the word method afterwards, trademark, certified. So let's say your firm name, in this case, like Shannon, is called Payroll Restoration. So this would be the Payroll Restoration Method certified, could be an example. Or you can do your firm name standard. So that would be less of a certification and more of a like a code of ethics, like a code of conduct type of stuff. Then you can do what's called a composed name, add the word method, or certified composed name professional, right? So by composed name, I'm gonna kind of go deep into this. What do I mean by a composed name? You kind of grab 2 or 3 keywords that represent why you're different and unique, and you kind of like join them together. Make sure that there's something about the outcome, what the customer gains from working with a certified pro from this credential. And then you join the parts, like you can do is just join the parts of the name. So you grab 2 words or 3 words, you kind of like smash them together, make one thing. And this is where ChatGPT is like extremely helpful. And then you create one word. So like accurate and strategic could be acutigic, or clear analytics could be claritics, something like that. And actually, I built a let's go into ChatGPT. I built a chatbot that will help you build that. So I'm gonna kind of show that to you real quick. It's in the slides, so make sure you have a copy of the slides. So you go into ChatGPT and you click on the button that says, I want to create a framework with my own unique credential. What do you need to know? And the chatbot asks you all the questions. What's your firm name? What do you want the credential to include? You know, what words describe your firm culture or personality? What are your core values? So it actually it's a template. It asks you for all the questions, everything that you need to know in order to build it. And then I'm going to go into my docs, okay, because I didn't want to type it all manually, but I went in there and I answered it in a docs format, and I answer all the questions. Okay, so just imagine yourself going question by question, and you can tell it, ask me question by question so you're not overwhelmed. And then you answer all the questions. So I went in there and answered every one of his questions. What kind of vibes are you looking for? Should the name sound techy, transformative, that sort of thing. You give it the answer, and then based on the answers, it actually builds the framework for you. So it tells you here's Clarity. So clarity plus analytics plus matrix, stratify IQ, strategy plus amplify plus IQ, velocert, right? Velocity and certify, accrual edge, right? So, accrual advantage, Optivance, right? And then it goes into and it gives you some of the narrative. So in Garcia and Associates, it signals a fast, accurate, and insight accounting. This is how we turn technical expertise into strategic momentum. And then here's an example of how you can create a different level. So here's the level 1 for core, and it kind of gives you, a general idea, and then for pro, and then for master. The chatbot's already sort of pre-built for you. There's some messaging. All of our team members are Clarity certified, trained in our proprietary method, fast, accurate, strategic accounting. Behind every great decision is clean and clear data. Our strategics, pro advisors, you gotta be careful with that one, but professional advisors help you move faster, think smarter, and scale with confidence. Just don't do your books, build clarity. That's the Clarity standard. So Kenneth just walks you through what this means in terms of messaging. Carlos, any questions or comments on this?
This is, again, I mean, it's one of the things that I think helps you differentiate, put yourself in a space of how to position yourself as different, unique, and more valuable, is if you're looking to demonstrate why your pricing should be justified with, this is one way to do it, right? Is you could either build your credentials or take as many certifications as you want elsewhere, or build your own unique process. Because I think sometimes a lot of people try to be better by being better, by saying we're better, but you don't really speak to why you're better. But being able to be different is one of the biggest value propositions that help you position yourself at a greater value. So I think this is phenomenal. I know you and I, Hector, have been brainstorming about creating, certification from a standpoint of like reframe, because we're leveling up standards in the way that we're thinking, that we're operating, and thinking about what are the processes inside your system where you're leveling up the standard, and as a result of it, you're creating a greater amount of value. And that's a great, ethos of why developing a certification process would make a good business case.
And what even makes it easier is you can say, help me design badges for Clarity. Give me a prompt to use image creation. And then it gives you the whole prompt. And then you start a new chat, a regular ChatGPT 4.0 chat, and you tell it, you paste the prompt, and it literally builds it for you. And again, I'm not saying this is going to replace a graphic designer. I think a graphic designer will probably do a much better job, but it gives you a good starting point, right? It gives you a good starting point. So it really helps you think beyond the credentials that you have to depend on other people to get. Like if you build your own credential, you are the source of that knowledge. You are the source of that credential. You are the builder of that credential. I mean, who's best to do what this credential says it does than the creator of that credential? Now, I'm not saying this is just going to create a random batch and that's it. Go through the whole, you got to go through the whole process of building it, but it's one way to quickly shortcut, the challenges of getting an actual credential. And here's just an example of actually I had ChatGPT. I told them, based on everything you know about me, and my firm, how would you create one? And it gave me this. So I'm giving you the framework here. We have level 1, technical excellence, right? This is the one that says we know our numbers. So this is the mastery of tools, internal SOPs, error detection, knowing the balance sheet, monthly closing, compliance checklist. Number 2, client communications. We ask better questions. So it goes through like how an accountant asks questions in order to perform their job better. And lastly, professional identity. This could be the 3 levels, right? We carry ourselves like pros, like how do we reflect and learn our lessons? How do we have a growth mindset and a feedback loop? How do we time management and do leadership and ownership of clients' outcomes, continuous improvements, and the courage to ask questions and ask for help from someone else in the firm or somebody else outside. So you create your levels of masteries and levels of standards to build your own credential. I think that's just probably the most valuable thing that you can do. So anyway, if you're part of the Reframe Society, we're actually in June and July, Carlos and I are designing the whole course on how to create your own credential. Like one of our goals is that every single society member in their firms has their own unique credential. Like they walk out having the most unique value proposition in the marketplace where they own the entire universe of that knowledge because they created it. Okay. So that's kind of our goal. And so if you are part of the Reframe Society, then you will see that in the summertime, we're going to develop that. Extremely excited about that. Probably one of the most things that we're excited about building this year. Well, that and the conference, of course. But click on the link there if you want to schedule some time with Carlos to discuss it. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview on value creation, which we're going to spend next month's webinar, the Pricing with Confidence Reframe webinar series. We're going to go deeper into this. And essentially, there's 4 ways to measure ROI. And Deborah was asking, okay, how do you do that? So I'm going to give you the high level answer. So the high level answer is there is functional value, emotional value, life-changing value, and social impact value. And this actually backed up by a deep study that we're actually going to talk about next month, how these things break down. But the functional value is the stuff that we talk about all the time. We save you time, we reduce your costs, we organize your life, or organize your books, whatever, and we help you make more money, right? That's how most service providers stay there, right? That's what like marketing people say, we're going to help you sell more. Accountants, tax preparers say, we're going to help you save on taxes. Bookkeeper says, we're going to organize your books. Like we're very, very focused on functional value. And yes, that's extremely valuable, but this is the stuff that AI is after first. Like AI is going to consume this one first. Like the reason why any of you use AI or ChatGPT is because you're trying to save money or reduce costs or organize your life or make money by using the AI, right? So AI is going to like take over this first. The next level is the emotional value, right? This is where you help people reduce anxiety, improve their mental health, maybe allow them to have fun. Like I think business owners have a lot more fun when they don't have to worry about the books. Okay, most business owners say that the thing that they hate the most is going back to the numbers, calling their clients that haven't paid them, issuing 1099s, going after vendors that haven't given them their W-9. Like that's the part that makes business not fun. So if we can take away all the not fun elements and allow people to spend all their time having fun in their business, how much more productive they would be. So that's the emotional part. Then there's the life-changing part, right? Giving people hope, giving people a new point of view, like a whole different way of looking at things, helping people like change their mind and have a paradigm shift where what they thought was the opposite of what they think today. That's pretty incredible. Or motivate them or inspire them. And then the deepest one is the social impact, right? Helping people fulfill their purpose, or helping people impact their communities, or helping people secure their business future, helping people build a legacy. Now, Carlos and I were brainstorming about why do we think that accountants have such a tough time moving beyond the functional value? Like they're very good at talking about that part. And I would love to, in the live chat, if you have any reservations about going above the functional value, what are the things that prevent you from doing that? And we have a hypothesis which we want to present to you, but put in the chat, whatever you think are the reasons why we have such a tough time moving beyond the functional conversation of value creation. And while I'm at it, I'm going to run polling question number 3. Don't forget to run all the polling questions. And Carlos, what's your hypothesis?
Because it has to happen. Well, I mean, face value, what is the perception of a customer when they think of an accountant? They think of get me a report done, get my bookkeeping done. It's urgent, it's what I need now. And so ultimately, I don't want to say it's an order, right? Like we're taking an order and we're fulfilling the order because that's the immediate need. It's how do we transition from I'm just going to give you a set of reports or I'm going to complete this compliance thing, whether it's bookkeeping or tax, to now I need to do this transition where I need to go into your private life and you need to tell me how you feel about certain things. And it essentially, you're crossing the boundary of, from that professional standpoint and trying to go deeper into it. And for some people, it's awkward or it may feel invasive. Those are some of my initial thoughts because I remember when I worked in the financing world and I would ask someone, how's your credit? And they kind of looked at me like, are you going to judge me if I tell you it's bad? So there's awkward nuances that go into asking these deep private conversations. Have we earned the privilege to even ask these kind of questions? And I think some of it is the art of the conversation, and some of it is all our own internal reasons. That's my hypothesis. What do you think?
Yeah, and then we have the answers on the live chat here. Some of it is we were told that we're not creative or imaginative enough, right? Or somebody else says here, because that's fluffy stuff. We don't like the fluffy stuff. We like the hard stuff. Sonia says, we actually need to start looking back at how we felt about our customers during the pandemic. And that's so true, Sonia. Like we felt like we owed it to the economy. We owed it to the business owners. We owed it to these people that we've been helping for years build strong businesses to survive the pandemic. Like we felt it, and it seems like we're starting to forget it, right? Shannon says it's because it's like dealing with people. We like dealing with numbers, not dealing with people. That's good point. Tunde says because functional is quantifiable and emotional isn't, and we like counting. We like putting things on spreadsheets.
That's good.
And James says the lack of psychology education. That's actually a really, really good answer. That's actually part of my hypothesis here. Carlos and I figured that what we think the reason is why accountants don't move beyond that is because we think that is somebody else's job, right? Like we think of the psychologist as the one that is in charge of reducing anxiety, improving mental health, getting people to, to feel less depressed and have more fun. And we think of like a life coach. That's a person that's going to give people hope and a new point of view and a paradigm shift and motivation and inspiration, etc. And then for the social impact, for this highest level stuff, like helping people achieve their purpose, community impact, their children's future, their legacy, there actually isn't a job for this, which I actually find it fascinating. There actually isn't a profession that you can say, oh, yeah, that there's a particular profession that helps people with that, unless you could think of one, put it in the chat. And I think that because there isn't one, it's ours for the taking. So once again, even though the world says that the accountant does the functional stuff and the psychologist does the emotional stuff and the life coach does the life-changing stuff, I think that position to help people fulfill their purpose and impact, like the social impact, is ours for the taking. And all we have to do is rebrand ourselves, right? We're not the people that help you account for numbers so you can get more profitability and pay less taxes. No, we are the people that help you achieve your purposes. The way we do that is we give you hope, motivation, and inspiration to run your business the way you want to. The way we do that is by reducing your anxiety, right? Reducing your anxiety, improving your mental health, and helping you have more fun with your business. The way we do that is by helping you save time, reduce costs, organize your life, and make money. So we go backwards. Like we start with what we do is help you fulfill your purpose. And then we go with the how. And then we kind of go down the pyramid this way. That's what we're proposing. And this is the stuff that Carlos and I these are the concepts that Carlos and I are sort of brainstorming to build our workshop for the Reframe 2025 conference in November. So everything you see in this webinar is us playing with different concepts to see what's going to make it to the 4 exercise, because we're only doing 4 exercises in a live conference. What's going to make it to the 4 exercise? What's going to make it to the main stage? There's so much to talk about. And what you're seeing is all of our thoughts around this. So anyway, we're going to go deeper into value creation next month. We're going to talk about the 30 elements of value trademark. Okay, I'll leave that out there, right? It's I'm not going to say this our trademark. We went to the Q&A, and I just wanted to quickly plug the last events that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and run the last polling question for those of you that need your CPE certificates, and we're about to finish up. So April 28th and 29th, tickets are on sale. Reframe virtual conference, Reframe virtual event. Carlos and I have taken the keynotes from Reframe 2024, condense them into the most important things. Plus, we're going to add some updates to those keynotes. And then we're going to break down people in 10 person groups in Zoom. We're going to have a table leader, right? To making sure that we stay on task. And we're going to be doing 4 exercises that are going to be similar to Reframe 2024. We're going to condense the 2.5-day conference into 2 days. It's not meant for you to watch it later. Like, it's just not going to be the same, right? It's meant for you to be there and do the exercises. We'll have a product where you can watch them later, but I don't think you get the value really is through the workshop or through the exercises, right? So that's what we recommend. Yes, we'll have a product that you could sell, you could watch later, but I think that doing the breakouts, and we're going to invest, we're bringing paid table facilitators, and some of them are not paid because they're part of the Reframe Society, and they're building up to be table leaders in Reframe 2025. But we're going to bring a mixture of people that are going to be there running the tables to make sure the exercises go the way they're supposed to, and then all the full keynotes will be accessible to those folks. So if you were at Reframe 2024, you notice there was a lot of cameras. We recorded the whole thing. We didn't know what we're going to do with the recordings. Now we know what we're going to do with the recordings. It's going to be you're going to have access to it you get access to the recordings in the portal. So there's the link to register. One thing I want to make sure I add is, if you went to Reframe 2024 in person, or you purchase any of our exactly what to say equipment implementation guides, equipment book implementation guides, we are going to send you an email with a coupon. So you're only really going to pay the difference between what you already paid and the conference. So there'll be a coupon for that. Carlos, I'll let you take over.
All right, great. Thanks, Hector. So essentially, we've got some other great things going on. And on the next slide, Hector, since you're controlling, if you don't mind just turning to the next week, we have announced and in partnership with ADP, who's been gracious and generous enough to share their space with us. We will be doing our US tour this year, and we're kicking it off in Los Angeles. It's going to be on the 6th of May. And essentially, these are all going to be one-day events. That's going to be also, if you are unable to make it to the virtual event, it's going to be a version of Reframe 2024, Influential Conversations, leveraging the exactly what to say methodology, which we co-wrote with Phil Jones. And it's a system of elevating influential and impactful communication so that you can communicate your value a lot more confidently, and then just how to position yourself as a high-level expert professional, and other frameworks that are going to help you elevate yourself as an expert professional. We've got Chicago on the 13th of May. We've got Dallas confirmed on the 15th of May. So if you're ready to come to one of those events, make sure you reach out to me. Right now, we're only opening up a wait list for that. We haven't quite opened the registrations for it. And then New York is definitely happening. That's to be determined. We're still trying to iron out a specific date for that. So if we'd love to see you in person, we're definitely going to make it a very special experience. We're going to be taking pictures and video and wining and dining you to make sure that not only do we get an opportunity to learn, to grow, but also to network and have a really memorable transformative experience for you. So if you're interested in that, make sure you email me and we will add you to the wait list. And the moment that we bring out registrations, you will be the first ones to get that email so that you could be part of that experience. Um, the 1 day workshop is 9 to 5, up to 20. The rooms are not going to be that big, but ADP will be our host of that. So they're going to be coming in to say a little bit about how to partner with ADP. Not so much, but really the majority of the workshop is going to be mastermind style. We're going to have a lot of thinking exercises for you to practice how to have better conversations to become more confident, influential, and impactful when communicating in all elements of life's difficult and challenging critical conversations that exist not just in the business. And we're going to be using the exactly what to say methodology.
I just want to add something. We're not considering more cities. Like, yeah, we said we're gonna hit 4 cities, and that's it. I know everybody wants to suggest their city, but not that. I mean, we could do a firm. I mean, we could do a custom firm exactly what to say certification. Carlos has been doing that already all over the country. But in terms of this one, where people kind of come to us, we only picked 4 cities, and we try to pick the 4 biggest cities to try to attract as much people as possible, or make it easy for people to travel there if they're local.
Thanks for that. So also, if you want to be part of something greater than just, figuring life and your business on your own, we have the Reframe Society, which is a wonderful online community. A lot of you who are on this webinar are part of that community. It is a paid online membership, but Hector and I do show up twice per month live. We create a brand new rethink session every month, and they're all unique and new and different and around how to stay innovative, disruptive, forward thinking, around mindset, sales, marketing, branding, positioning, technology, and much more. I'm sure friends that are here on the chat will tell you how great that experience is. And then lastly, if you're interested, there's a link at the bottom if you want to learn more about that. And then lastly is Reframe 2025, which is our big event. This is our signature event that happens every year. And this time it's going to be in beautiful Coral Gables, Florida, starting on November 2nd as our pre-conference where Hector will go over AI and a lot of updates around how to leverage AI in the world of accounting. And then the 2 day event is going to be Monday and Tuesday, the 4th. And then also an optional November 5th rebranding for accountants. About 3/4 of a day workshop where it's going to be all focused around how to rebrand yourself for your customers. And those tickets are selling fast. We have limited seats, and I think we already have it's going to be a small room, so it'll be more intimate. But that's what we have. Hector, anything missing? Or I think that wraps it up for today, right?
I think we have a live question. Heather, raise her hand. Do you have a question? Nope. Okay.
Heather, you have 5 seconds to unmute yourself if you have a question or you want to type it in the chat. Otherwise, send you back to the participant.
Yeah. Okay. So if we don't have any more questions, we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Bye.